Once upon a time in a faraway kingdom, there was a beautiful princess whose skin was as white as snow, lips as red as roses, and hair as black as ebony. The people called her Snow White. Her stepmother, the queen, was a proud and jealous woman who loved only herself. Every day she would ask her magic mirror, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" And every day the mirror would reply, "My queen, you are the fairest of them all." But one day the mirror said, "My queen, you are beautiful, yes, but Snow White is even more beautiful than you." The queen was furious. She couldn't believe that Snow White was more beautiful than her. So she decided to get rid of her. She called her huntsman and said, "Take Snow White into the forest and kill her. Bring me back her heart and lungs to make a delicious stew." The poor huntsman couldn't bear to kill the innocent princess, so he told the queen, "I'm sorry, my queen, but I cannot kill the princess." The queen got very angry, but the huntsman begged her to let him go, and she finally agreed. When the huntsman took Snow White into the forest, he told her to run away and hide. And then he went back to the castle to tell the queen that he had killed her. The queen was very happy and ordered her servants to prepare a feast in celebration. Meanwhile, Snow White was lost and frightened in the forest. She walked and walked until she came across a small cottage. She knocked on the door, and a little man appeared. He was one of 7 dwarfs who lived in the cottage. When Snow White told them that she was being chased by a huntsman, the dwarfs took her in and welcomed her to stay with them. Snow White promised to take care of the house and garden in return for their hospitality, and so she lived with the dwarfs happily, cooking and cleaning for them and singing while they worked in the mines. One day, when Snow White was hanging some laundry outside the cottage, she heard the queen's voice. The queen had used her magic to disguise herself as an old woman. She approached Snow White and said, "My dear child, why are you working so hard? Let me do it for you." Snow White didn't know that the old woman was actually the queen, so she agreed. But as soon as she left the cottage, the queen used a spell to make the laundry stick to Snow White's back like a tight lace. She then ran to the dwarves and told them what had happened. They were very upset and quickly cut the lace so that she would not suffocate. The queen was furious when she realized that her plan had failed. She returned to the cottage disguised as a different old woman and tried to trick Snow White again. This time she offered her a beautiful comb. "Here you can have this comb, my dear. It will make your hair look even more beautiful." Snow White accepted the gift and started to comb her hair. But each time she did, a sharp splinter pricked her finger. Once again, the dwarf saved her life. The queen was getting more and more desperate. She went back to the cottage for a 3rd time and offered Snow White a big, juicy apple. "This is a magic apple, my dear. It will make you the most beautiful girl in the kingdom." Snow White took a bite, but as soon as she did, she fell down and lay still as if she were dead. The dwarfs were heartbroken when they saw Snow White lying in the grass. They carried her inside the cottage and laid her in a glass coffin. Then they hung a black cloth over the window to keep the sun from shining in and waking her up. Many days passed, and one day a prince who loved Snow White from afar came to visit the dwarves. He was sad to hear that his beloved was dead, but he couldn't resist the urge to see her for himself. As he approached the cottage, he noticed the beautiful girl lying in the coffin. He gently lifted the cloth and saw that Snow White was still as white as snow, still as red as roses, and still as black as ebony. He leaned over and kissed her. As soon as the prince kissed Snow White, the spell was broken. She opened her eyes and looked at the handsome prince. They were deeply in love, and soon after they were married. They lived in a castle made of gold, while the evil queen was never seen again. And that is the story of Snow White and the 7 dwarfs. Do you like this story? Let me know in the comments below.